Hey, it's Tina Brinkley Potts, and today I have Angela Ray. Angela is an actress, an author, and a speaker, and she's been in many different things that I'm sure you've heard of, like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill. Shared the stage with Sanaa Lathan, and a whole host of others. But you know what? Angela can best describe the things she does. So I'm gonna let Angela tell you. Hi, Angela. How you doing?
I'm great, Tina. How are you? So glad to be on with you today.
Good, good, good. I'm doing good. So, Angela, why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do? So, you're an actress first. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I am an actress. Been very fortunate to have some credits in some television shows and projects that may be recognizable to some of your clients and followers. That you mentioned Dawson's Creek. I had a recurring role on a show called One Tree Hill a few years ago. Did some independent films like Louie, where I played Louis Armstrong's mother, if you can believe that, and
Okay.
actually have some other projects that are coming up as well.
Wow. My daughter and I are One Tree Hill fans. We watch it on Netflix even still today. So, we love that show. And why don't you talk a little bit about you've written a couple books too?
Absolutely. So about 10 years ago, I self-published a book called Blackberry Whispers. It was a book of poetry, and I have to thank one of my seventh grade classmates, a young lady by the name of Amy Pendergrass. She has no idea that I'm always giving her credit for my poetry, but we were in Miss Patterson's language arts class,
Hmm.
and Amy dared me to write a poem. She was like, "Can you write a poem?" And I was like, "Yes, I can write a poem." Had never written a poem, but I was like, "Yeah, I can write a poem." And she's like, "I dare you to write a poem." So I sat there in class and wrote this poem, something about a crush on a guy or something. I think it was Amy's idea. And so I wrote the poem. Of course, it wasn't that great, but I kind of liked that feeling of writing, and that bug stayed with me from seventh grade all the way through high school. And I studied poetry under Jim C. at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels. And so eventually, after graduation, still having that love for poetry, I eventually published Blackberry Whispers. And since that time, I also have a book called Rays of Motivation. And my latest book is called Rehearsing for the Leading Role, Lessons I Learned as an Actress That Can Help You Become a Megastar Student Leader. So that's for my high school and college students that I love to speak to.
Okay, okay. And so, well, we could tell you bleed blue based off of your, go Tar Heels, number one. And we're going to thank Amy for giving you that motivation to write those books. How about that?
That's awesome. Yeah.
So let's talk about, though, because when you come down to the conference, you're going to focus on speaking. And I know that you've done a lot as far as speaking. I mean, wow, you started back in your elementary school days, as well as the success that you have now. So why don't you start there? Let's talk about some of the awards that you've won. Because you was the first African American to do something, right?
Yeah, it is funny that you mentioned that, Tina, because after that accomplishment, it was over 5 years later when I found out I'd actually broken some records. So that was hilarious to me. Like someone just happened to be talking about me, and it was like, she was the first African American to do XYZ. And I was like, really? I was? I didn't even know it happened to be someone who worked in the school system and was a mentor to me at the time. I just didn't know that I had, made some great achievement, but I was the first African American student to represent the entire state of North Carolina in the National Civic Oration Contest. And so it was exciting for me just to be able to represent the state of North Carolina, because at the time it was just like I felt like a celebrity before I actually started working in film and television,
Mm-hmm.
because as soon as that happened, people started calling my parents' house. The newspapers, they were calling, they were doing interviews. Someone stopped by our house to do an interview. I was getting letters of congratulations from colleges, and I had no idea how they found out about it. So because it was a big achievement, I just didn't know how big. A lot of people were reaching out to me, extending congratulations, and really supporting me on that quest to become the national winner. So that was back in, like I said, back in high school. And since that time, I've continued to speak and, won some awards with Toastmasters as well.
Okay, okay. But I know that you majored in speech as well when you went to, good old Tar Heels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my love of speaking started at a very early age.
Okay.
There's an urban legend, if you will, in our family about the first time I spoke in public. And so the legend, depending upon who tells it, goes something like this. I was 3 years old and it was Easter and I had to say an Easter speech. Now my whole Easter speech at the age of 3 was Happy Easter, everybody. And so my mother must have, I don't know, whispered it to me right before I was supposed to go up to the microphone and say this Easter speech. But when I hear my cousin tell the story, it's hilarious. She talks about how I looked at everybody as I walked up to the microphone. And my mother told me to speak loudly and clearly, but she didn't know that I was going to take loud to mean shout. And so I shouted it so loud. And, being 3 years old, like the whole audience erupted. And there must have been something that was like, hey, people like it when I speak. And I must have like internalized that at the age of 3. So I kept doing it all elementary school, middle school, participating in extracurricular activities, studying it, like you said, at my alma mater, the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. And yeah, I'm a Tar Heel. I do not make any apologies about that.
I know.
Yeah, but speaking has just been a part of my life literally since the age of 3. And when I was in elementary school and, doing some public speaking contests at that time, I didn't know that it would be something that not only would I go on to do professionally, but I would also one day help other people develop their voice as well.
Wow, that's good because I can tell you when I was in elementary school and I remember we had this play and I broke out into sweats and all of that kind of stuff. So it was like, don't do that now. Thank goodness. I'm able to go and, rock the house when I got to speak. But, woo, it was not that easy when I was in elementary school. But you know what, Angela? Let's talk about now and, like more recent history. I know that you have done some training for major internet companies. So why don't you talk about that?
Yes, for a while, I had a contract with one of Monster.com's subsidiaries, Make It Count, where I trained speakers from around the country, basically helping them get on their feet, do their presentations at the top level. And so I was very fortunate to have that experience, not only training speakers, but learning from them as well, because as a trainer, you get to point out to people the little things that maybe they don't know they're doing and giving them some ideas for improving. But then you also get a chance to see some great things that those speakers in development are doing as well.
Yes. And I know, like, for me, it was always saying, and I still do it now, but
yeah, I know.
right. So I know that you help people like me say, you're doing it again. You're doing that thing again. So, you know what, Angela? Let's get into some tactical things for people who are not only looking to get paid speaking, but, are going to start using this as a vehicle to further their products or their services or something to that effect. So why don't you tell us one of the biggest mistakes that people tend to make when they start speaking?
Tina, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they begin to speak, particularly if they, like you said, if they're using it to further their products or services, or it's a part of their business, not treating it like a business. Oftentimes people are willing to go out and speak for free. And let me pause right there. We all give back. We all donate our time and our talent to various efforts that we feel some affinity to. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people who, for lack of a better way of saying it, are seemingly so desperate to become a speaker that they don't put any value on what they bring as a speaker. Therefore, they're willing to do it for free. And I think that, again, with the business, there's nothing wrong with giving a sample. I love Costco because I love going there getting a sample. But, when you go to Costco, when you go to Sam's, you get a little sample. You don't get the whole thing. You get just enough to whet your appetite so that you can, eventually purchase that product. And so it's nothing wrong with, doing something small to give someone an idea of what you can do, or, even being able to give back to some local organizations. But, I've been on websites like Facebook, or I've been on LinkedIn, and I've seen someone say, I'm looking for a speaker for XYZ event, and there's no money for honorarium or stipend. We don't cover your travels. We don't do this. And then to see how many people respond, well, oh, I'd like to do it and I'm not there, but I can, to me, it's just unbelievable. So I think the biggest mistake that people make is not treating it as a business. And when you think about treating something as a business, you think about, number one, the time it takes to prepare your product, in this case, which is your presentation or your speech.
Yeah.
You think about the marketing and advertising dollars, or the marketing and advertising, I wouldn't even always say dollars, but sometimes there are things that you can do yourself, even if you're not hiring a major marketing or advertising agency, but you have to factor in that sweat equity. How much time will it take you to develop a press kit or develop a quality website? And those are things that you have to factor in. You can't just say, well, I'm a speaker because I have a business card and someone told me that I could come in and speak. Because the barrier to entry to the speaking industry does not exist. Basically, if someone asks you to come in to talk to a group, all of a sudden you're a speaker. But does that really mean that you're moving your business forward in terms of your product or your services or even your speaking?
Wow. Angela, that tip you just gave was huge, because that is a tip that I give to my clients, even if you're not moving the needle to speak yet. Maybe it's just you have this pen you're selling. And if you don't value this pen enough based off of the time and the effort that you're putting in it, you can't expect people to give you more value than you're willing to give yourself. So that was a perfect tip. I know that, let's go to the flip side now. We talked about a big mistake. Now, why don't we talk about one of the tips that you'll share when you're down in Atlanta with me at Illumination, and we're talking about how to get paid for what you already know. So why don't you give people one tip that you're going to share?
Okay, well, I'll be talking about some effective ways to begin a presentation or a speech, if you will. And that's so very important. It's almost like it's the appetizer, because if you don't whet people's appetite with the beginning of your speech, many times they may tune out. And if you're thinking, I'm going to give myself a chance to warm up, you may be out of the game before it ever really starts. And so one of the tips that I'll give is how to begin an effective presentation. And one way to do that is with a story. Now, I will add something onto that. Back when I was still in the beginning stages of being a professional speaker, I oftentimes got stories from, emails that I received or stories that I'd heard. And, I might add my little twist on it, the way only Angela Ray can. But one day I showed up to an event where the speaker before me, I kid you not, Tina, she said every single story I had planned to share. And seriously. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So that taught me that I needed to develop my own stories. Yeah. If someone showed up and they were doing my story, that meant they stole it from me. But I just started developing the stories, experiences that I had. And I really believe that we all have experiences that become life lessons. Therefore, they can be added into a presentation. So one of the effective ways to begin a presentation, one of 5 that I'll be talking about, is beginning with a story.
I love that. Because, of course, there's a lot of other effective ways, but let's talk about how, when you were talking about she did all of your stories, I know one of the things that drives me crazy is when I go to a conference and people are using the same acronyms or the same, so like the one for fear.
False evidence appearing real, yeah.
If I never hear that again, I would be okay, because it's so overused, and it's almost like you couldn't come up with anything better than that. And for me, I know that, just like you were just saying, when you're valuing yourself, if you take the time to make an effort to have your own stories, your own presentation, if somebody else starts using it, you know you was good enough to copy.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, they say that's the biggest form of flattery, right?
Imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
Right.
So yeah, that, like I said, I'd heard that before, but I never showed up somewhere where literally the person right before me did everything that I planned to do. So that was a lesson learned for me that, okay, you can do better. You're being lazy. There are too many things that you've experienced, too many lessons that you've learned that you can put into the form of a story, and you won't have to worry about this happening again.
But you know, like you said, when you were a newbie, most people that were teaching or even still are teaching speaking at the time are teaching you to pull stories from here, there, everywhere instead of using your own, correct?
Sometimes there are people out there who just teach you to use, what's tried and true. You know it's a success. You've heard it. I've even heard a saying. Now, I won't say that I've heard anyone teach this in terms of a speaker trainer, but I've heard that, good speakers create, great speakers steal. And that is just, yeah, I mean, obviously the way you present material is going to be unique to you, but it definitely is better when you have your own. You become more credible, you stand apart, and honestly, when something comes from your heart and is authentic,
Yes.
an audience can resonate with that. They'll feel that and they can sense that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I was to tell anybody, if you're looking to become a speaker and get paid for it, you want to listen to Angela about learning to present your own story, because again, no one can be you, and you can deliver you better than you can deliver somebody else. So when you start honoring the experiences that you've been through, yes, all of our experiences may have not been so good, but now you've learned from it, so now you can take it and present it into a story that somebody else is going to go, wow, that happened to me. Oh, I'm going through that right now, So it just makes it so better. I can't wait to hear you actually share how to develop a story, because I think that is one of the major things that will, when you want to create an income quickly, being genuine to yourself is a huge part of that.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And sharing the things that you've been through, sharing your story. I've often heard it said that your trials and your challenges, they really aren't for you. They're for you to bless somebody else. And so you not sharing what you've been through, you're really doing your potential clients and your audience a disservice by not being transparent.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I'm not even going to go there because we'll be on here all day. But yes. Absolutely. So I hope you join us in Atlanta. We will be there August 15th, 16th, and 17th. And Angela, you're going to be doing a book signing too at the kickoff party, right?
Absolutely. I will be there with copies of my book, Rays of Motivation. And, who knows, maybe I'll have an opportunity to share some of those rays of motivation throughout the evening, the kickoff event. I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. The great thing is we'll get, some of the people from Atlanta that live in that area will be coming to the kickoff party. I just can't wait. We got the lay of the land. Some of the major corporations have already agreed to come in. I can't wait for that event. I think it's going to be great.
Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to it.
Well, you know what, Angela? Thank you so much for sitting down with me and doing this interview. And I can't wait till you present to the audience down in Atlanta.
Well, thank you, Tina, so much for having me. And I am looking forward to a fantabulous event.
Absolutely. Can't wait for all of us to get together again. Wow, it's been a while.
It's been a long time. It's been too long. So
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to connecting and sharing with this next generation of creators who want to take their businesses to the next level.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So thanks again, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, Tina. Thank you.